I'll give you a sneak peek about what the key to a good campaign message. It's basically telling a authentic, values-driven story. All right, and we're going to unpack that a lot over the course of this. But the conventional wisdom in politics is that there are people on the left and there are people on the right. Oh, I guess if you're looking at me, people on the left, people on the right, and then there are these swing voters in between. And the key to a good campaign message is that you need to have policy that appeals to those swing voters. Now, what's the problem with that conventional wisdom? What happens?
The same stuff.
Same stuff. What does that mean?
No change happens, you don't get any development forward, kind of run in circles.
Yep.
In effect, the Republicans will use the same strategy, so they will shift this way, the Democrat shifts this way, and there's no differentiation.
That's right.
If you're not really saying anything, you're not really appealing to anyone.
That's right. Exactly. That being just Republican light is not the way you're actually going to appeal to these swing voters. What we found actually is that voters respond to clicks, values. It's about core values. That's what a voter responds to. We spend a lot of time in the progressive movement talking about policy, and we get involved in politics because we care deeply about policy. It's the thing on our brains all the time. But, you know, normal people aren't like that. What people are looking for actually are, what are your core values? In fact, there's an innate distrust for elected officials in America, especially today. They all suck. And why they suck is because they come off as inauthentic in those swing votes. So they can sense it. When you look, this is Ed Dukakis. I think some folks probably remember this. He was running for president. He showed up on a tank. This was literally the least authentic thing he could do. It ruined his career. This is Barack Obama bowling. Barack Obama is a lot of things. He is not a bowler. I think he rolled a few, what are those called? Gutter balls when he went bowling. And finally, here's Donald Trump in a truck. People can sense this level of authenticity in elected officials, right? The values of, what?
I mean, that's pretty authentic. He loves that truck.
He does love the truck. But the idea that Donald Trump has ever actually driven a rig across the country is, and it's the values and authenticity of yourself as a candidate that voters are going to respond to much more than your policy platform. In fact, your policy platform should be chosen because it reflects your values. When you go door to door and talk about the minimum wage is important, but what a voter is really looking for is, are you the type of person that believes in a fair and equitable society and everybody deserves equal pay? When you're talking about paid sick days, it's not paid sick days per se. People might agree with it, but what they're hearing really is that you're a person that cares for the rights of workers and the decency of being able to live. So we're going to unpack this a little bit about values over policy. This is something that we have a really difficult time with, but we're going to watch a few videos. And this is Elizabeth Warren announcing that she's running for Senate in Massachusetts. I want folks to think about, like, what are the values and the policy that she's talking about here.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to run for the United States Senate, and the reason is straightforward. Middle-class families have been chipped at, hacked at, squeezed, and hammered for a generation now, and I don't think Washington gets it. Washington is rigged for big corporations that hire armies of lobbyists. A big company like GE pays nothing in taxes, and we're asking college students to take on even more debt to get an education. We're telling seniors they may have to learn to live on less. It isn't right, and it's the reason I'm running for the United States Senate. You know, I grew up on the ragged edge of the middle class, and I know it's hard out there. I fought all my life for working families, and I've stood up to some pretty powerful interests. Those interests are going to line up against this campaign, and that's why I need you. Go to elizabethwarren.com, sign up, get involved, be part of this. We have a chance to help rebuild America's middle class. We have a chance to put Washington on the side of families. We can do this together.
All right, so was there policy in that speech? No, right? But there were values, right? What were Elizabeth Warren's values? Mm-hmm.
I think she puts the middle-class families against the big corporate interests.
Yeah, that's right. She cares about middle-class families. What was that line that she says every time?
I grew up on the ragged edge of the middle class.
Ragged edge of the middle class. What are the other values you feel like she's got?
Family.
Family? Yeah. Now, was that a compelling speech?
Yes.
You think so? So I would argue that that is actually not that compelling. I think it's kind of boring. Listening to her just kind of talk like that is actually not that interesting to me because there's nothing behind it. She tells me that she grew up on the ragged edge of the middle class, but I don't really see it, right? So we can talk about values and we can talk about policy, but one of the things we really want to impart here is that the way we talk about these are through story. So this is another video that was released afterwards. So I want folks to think about what she's saying. It's very similar to the first one. Ignore the bells and whistles of the music and the video. Just really think about hear what she's saying.
I decided to run for Senate because I feel blessed. I grew up, the daughter of a maintenance man. My mom answered phones at Sears. But I grew up in an America that was really investing in kids like me, in my education and creating lots of opportunities for jobs. That was what America was like. And about 30 years ago, we really turned in a different direction. We increasingly became a country that was about, I got mine, the rest of you are on your own. That's not the America that creates real opportunity for our kids. So I'm in this race because what I really want to see is an America that believes again in investing in tomorrow and investing in opportunity for all of our kids. So they've all got a chance to make it big. One of the things that happens when you're out and shake hands with folks is they explain why they care so much about this election, why they're invested in it. I hear from college students who've just gotten hammered on student loans. They worked hard, they played by the rules, and now they're moving back home with mom and dad because they just can't pull it all together. I talk to young couples who are doing pretty well themselves, but they're really worried about whether we're building the right future for our children. I talk to seniors who watch what's going on in Washington and cannot believe that we live in a world where the Senate says protect big oil subsidies but cut back on our commitments to our seniors. So there are a lot of people who are really invested in this campaign, but most of all, I get to hear from people about their lives and about their hopes for the future. I feel very, very privileged to have this opportunity to be out there to talk about our future with people all across this Commonwealth.
So what was different besides the music and the video and the pictures, right? What was different between those two?
They're very specific stories. I mean, I grew up on the ragged edge. My father,
Right.
my mother
That's a more
answered
personal
phones.
story.
It was
That's
very
more-
real.
Well, there were details too. It wasn't just
Details.
saying I grew up. It's showing how she grew up as a middle class family. What else?
She was more focused on kids and their future.
Yep, she was telling other people's story also. It wasn't just, her personal story. She was also talking about seniors, and she was talking about students, and she was talking about families and their stories, right?
I was gonna say she didn't say I as much.
She didn't say I as much. Yeah, there's a we there, right?
Yeah.
So, was there policy in that? No, none, right? It's like there's a little bit.
A little bit.
It is a little bit.
We talked about the oil subsidies versus
Yeah.
investment.
There's some policy. It's kind of light on. It's pretty light on policy though. Right? It's much more about values and about story. And what we're going to try to show today is that values and story are far more powerful than policy. So if you go to the next one, this one is an ad that Bernie did in Iowa towards the end of the campaign. Yep. And I'm going to use this to demonstrate that you can have a compelling campaign message completely devoid of policy whatsoever, and just have it be based on the stories that you tell and values that you hold and share. So we'll watch this and get some thoughts.
attendance, and I approve this message.
Any policy? No, right? Nothing.
No words.
Not even a word. Yeah. But what was he doing? What is that campaign ad conveying?
About like diversity, he shows cities and rural places, he shows young people, and that's just diversity around the board.
And this is everybody. And what is it? Who are this everybody?
America.
America. That's right. This is like one of the most patriotic ads I've ever seen. Like more than anything, Republicans have nothing compared to patriotism that Bernie's got.
But it's got an emotional component too. I mean, that ad really.
Totally. And it's got that like 1960s, like Simon and Garfunkel folk nostalgia of this America that once was but is now lost. You know, it's like there's something deeply compelling about that. And it's based on the story that he's telling. And it's not just this ad, right? It's not just like people saw that ad alone and were like, I'm going to vote for Bernie Sanders. This ad is part of a broader campaign message, right? But this is the campaign, this is the way he's telling that story. All right, so what is campaign message not? So now that we know what we're trying to get to is an authentic, values-based story, we're going to make a few things that we have problems with. It is not your 10-point policy plan. I've seen literature that's literally the back of the palm card is just like a laundry list of things this person wants to do in office. That's not what your campaign message is. Sorry, I went too soon. But what else your campaign message is not your resume. I'll just say that right now. Your campaign message is the core argument of a campaign that you're making. It answers the question of why should I vote for you? So what's Bernie's answer to that question? With everything you know, not just the ad.
And for the peeps, I want to do.
Right.
The peeps are. It's about you guys.
It's about America. It's about like bringing America. It's not a make America great again, but it's making America less unequal. It's making America work for regular working people. And there's an enemy there too, right? Who's the enemy in the Bernie?
Corporations.
The what?
Corporations.
Corporations, the millionaires and the billionaires, right? Right? That's the bad guy in Bernie's story. So when you're thinking about your campaign, this is what you're thinking about with the message. It's the argument you're going to make. There are 5 C's in campaign messages. It has to be concise, has to be clear, credible, consistent, and contrasting. So, concise. How many people have run for office before? Okay, how many folks have knocked on doors for candidates running for office before? All right, on average, how much time do you have to give your campaign spiel?
30 seconds.
Yes, that's right. If that. There's this great thing I read somewhere that was like, you know, with like mailers that you send out, you know how much money we spend on mailers? It's insane. And I read this thing that there's like 3 different types of mailers. People who get mail, right? There's the 3-second reader, the 15-second reader, and the 30-second reader. The 3-second reader sees your mail and throws it out. The 15-second reader sees your mail, looks at the picture, sees your name and throws it out. And the 30-second reader glances at your bullet points. You don't have that much time to get your message out, so you better make it concise. It needs to be clear. This is a real-life candidate who said this. We need to develop alternative transportation modalities. I swear to God, this was like real life.
Public transit, right?
Yes, public transit. That's the answer to this.
We need more buses.
Yes, we need more buses. That's actually the way you should say this. So, just like it needs to be concise because you don't have much time to say it, it's got to be really clear. Otherwise, it's not going to come out. So, credible. This has to do with authenticity.
But 2,700 people in our jail, and it costs us about $103 a day.
Gerald really doesn't have any hobbies.
Last year's tax rate was 14169. This year, we can take that down to 3838.
So is he always like that?
Yeah, all the time.
Which means that the 3838 is probably gonna go somewhere between 3838 and 41669.
Most people leave their work at the office.
We got 3 light rail cars. You can put 60 people on each car. So even if you add 2 cars, you're talking about maybe 300 people that are affected. There are 1 million people in this community. I mean, that is 0.01 to the 8th power. If you round it off, it's 0.
What he has to do is fix things.
So you have this 18-wheeler that's parked in this neighborhood, you have fumes all over the place, but quite frankly, it's not a code violation. You know, I think I like helping around the house here.
Please re-elect Gerald.
So, why is that a good campaign ad? It's funny. Yeah, in the back there.
To me, this didn't tell me anything about it. It didn't tell me whether he wanted to cut trains or add trains or.
It didn't tell you his policy platform, but what did it tell you? Well, his values, that he's like so committed to his community and this job that he loves it so much, he like can't leave it at work. He like lives it all the time. So there's zero policy. There's as much policy in that as there is in the Bernie ad, right? But there's as much of the values of the story that he's trying to tell you as there is in the Bernie ad. So
He could have been the complete corporate guy.
Totally.
And you wouldn't know it.
I'm not saying vote for him. I'm just saying it's a good ad. So there was another one, but I think for time I'm just going to skip it. This is the Joni Ernst castration ad that folks have seen that. All right, we'll just watch it really quick.
Yeah.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an island. So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork. My parents taught us to live within our means. It's time to force Washington to do the same. To cut wasteful spending, repeal Obamacare, and balance the budget. I'm Joni Ernst, and I approve this message because Washington's full of big spenders. Let's make them squeal.
All right. That was, I bet voters in Iowa remember that ad very well. Right? And we're not going to spend too much time because I think people get it. There's an authenticity to her that she's going to go and cut spending, literally.
Plus it's vivid.
Plus it's vivid. Yeah. Consistent. This is really important. Like every time you can get rid of the "I'm loving it." There's nothing here. What is this? What does this stand for? McDonald's. It's a bunch of different ways of portraying McDonald's, but it's showing McDonald's the same exact way. If you're having a clear, concise message, like have it be consistent. Don't change it up during the middle of the campaign unless like, you know what I think people get what consistent means. I'm not going to go into that. And then finally contrasting, and this is something that we're actually going to spend a lot of time on with the messaging box training that we're going to be doing this afternoon. This is, who was the gentleman who was here? Aaron was talking about this too, creating a contrasting message. It's not about mudslinging, it's not about saying bad things about your opponent, it's about telling the story about yourself that gives folks a choice. So we're going to dig in a lot on that. So just to review the 5 C's of a campaign message. It's concise, clear, credible, consistent, contrasting, and I would say delivered through a story, all right? So now we're going to watch a few speeches. These are going to be obviously different than campaign ads. I think most folks who are running here are not going to be buying TV ads. But you can, so we're going to watch actual campaign speeches and see what we can get out of them. So this is Donna Edwards. Donna Edwards was a congresswoman in Maryland. She ran for U.S. Senate, I'm going to say last year, lost in a Democratic primary. She is now running for Prince George County Executive, which is the county right outside of D.C., very big county. So this was her speech running for Senate. And I want folks to think about a few things. Do you feel like her story, do you feel like she's authentic? And do you feel like you get her values? And do you feel like she's giving a story? And I think, in particular, look at the details of her speech that make you feel whether she's authentic and what her values are, okay? So, is she authentic? Is she portraying her values? And what are the details through which she conveys that authenticity and the values that she has?
Thank you. I'm Congresswoman Donna Edwards. For a state with so much going for it, too many Marylanders are struggling to keep their place in the middle class or work their way into it. Struggling to pay college tuition, utility bills, high property taxes, struggling just to put food on the table. I know that struggle. As a single mom, I had to make tough choices about what I could afford for my son and what we had to do without. I was juggling the rent and the electric bill and racing to pick my son up from daycare to avoid the late fees. I know what it's like to almost lose everything you own because you get sick and you can't afford insurance. When I ran for Congress in 2008, it was to give a voice to families like ours, families like mine. And that's why my first act as a member of Congress was to pass legislation to add Maryland to the after-school suppers program. I saw kids going to school, our kids, and they were going hungry. I knew they deserved better. But for some reason, Maryland wasn't participating. And maybe it's because the elected officials didn't know these families by name, like I did. But today, tens of thousands of Maryland children now receive a nutritious dinner before they leave school. We know that contributes to higher achievement and lower dropout rates. That's called making progress work for Maryland's working families. I'm running for the Senate because everyday Marylanders deserve a voice at that table tea. You see, special interests get their way too often, with elected officials who are too willing to compromise their principles just to cut a deal or make a headline. I'm running for the Senate to give a voice to average workers who need paid leave so they can take care of a child without the fear of losing a job, or a single mom who needs affordable daycare so she can pay for her electric bill, for the young woman who doesn't understand why she's being paid 78 cents on the dollar for doing the exact same job as a man, and for the young man who might have messed up, but today needs an education and a job to rebuild his life and meet his responsibilities instead of hanging on a corner, and for the veterans and seniors who paid into Social Security expecting elected officials to keep that promise and not bargain it away. These are the people I fight for.
Was Donna's message clear? Was it concise? Or actually, let's dig in on that. What was her message, if it's so clear?
She's for working families, maybe for families.
It's for working families. And how did you get that? Besides saying I fight for working families, like what were the things that made you, yeah?
She talked about her motherhood experience and how kids were going to school,
Yeah.
and so she felt that.
Yeah, and she talked about her own life, about what it was like for her raising kids. What else?
She referenced what she did in the house when she started with the after-school dinners.
That's right. Yeah.
She then connected her experience and universalized it in a way that her constituents could relate to those scenarios.
Right. It was about what she experienced, and then that influenced her governing. Yeah.
Personally, what I think is interesting in the sense that everybody in this room is listening to the words that she's saying because of our vested interest in the political climate. But I think the average watcher is not going to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Is this an ad or is
No,
this
this
like
was I think this was a debate. This was a message for like local PBS or something.
You can see her eyes go back.
Yeah.
It was a little distracting.
Her delivery wasn't the best. That's right. But I do feel like it's illustrative of what I think is like a compelling, values-based, authentic story, which is why we chose to use it. Yes and yes. Yeah.
Okay. I really like the fact that she had actually used the strategy of even a certain demographic that has been consistently forgotten about. And she used that in a way to say, let's get them mobilized and sufficient.
Yeah.
That's powerful too.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's really important is one of the most powerful things any politician ever does in their political communications is, I think of this as like, that's how I know, that's why I fight for. So connecting your personal experience to the policy platforms. And notice, like, sounds like she's passed like one bill in Congress, right? Like, and it's not like a giant, like, you don't have to like bring home like a ton of bacon to make the case that you're fighting for people, but to say, I have this experience and that's why I did this. Like, that's why, it's because of this, it's because of my experience. Like, connecting your experience to your actions as a politician is really a powerful thing to do, and a lot of people don't do it.
So we're gonna watch the next speech. This is Michelle Obama's speech at Hillary Clinton's convention last summer, or the summer before last summer. We're not gonna watch the whole speech.
You know, it's hard to believe that it has been 8 years since I first came to this convention to talk with you about why I thought my husband should be president. Remember how I told you about his character and conviction, his decency and his grace, the traits that we've seen every day that he served our country in the White House. our daughters, how they are the heart of our hearts, the center of our world, and during our time in the White House, we've had the joy of watching them grow from bubbly little girls into poised young women. A journey that started soon after we arrived in Washington, when they set off for their first day at their new school. I will never forget that winter morning as I watched our girls, just 7 and 10 years old, pile into those black SUVs with all those big men with guns. And I saw their little faces pressed up against the window, and the only thing I could think was, what have we done? See, because at that moment, I realized that our time in the White House would form the foundation for who they would become. And how well we managed this experience could truly make or break them. That is what Barack and I think about every day as we try to guide and protect our girls through the challenges of this unusual life in the spotlight. How we urge them to ignore those who question their father's citizenship or faith. How we insist that the hateful language they hear from public figures on TV does not. How we explain that when someone is cruel or acts like a bully, you don't stoop to their level. No, our motto is, when they go low, we go high.
Was it clear? Yes. How was it clear? She was speaking facts. Well, a lot of folks speak facts, but what made it clear?
Very sort of short.
Hold on, let's do hands so that we can.
She literally was like listing values, and I was like writing them down, like, you know, decency, conviction, parenthood.
Yeah. And how did she convey those values?
Through like a really concrete story about her family.
And what are some of the details that you remember from that story?
Worrying about sending her kids off to school,
Yep.
and how being in the White House would form them as people.
The big men with guns. Right?
Yeah.
Those details. Yeah.
Just her cadence was much more consumable. She spoke sort of in phrases, and then she'd smile, and like almost like you could catch her throat, and then she'd speak another phrase. She didn't speak in paragraphs.
It was
she
concise.
Speaking consumable phrases.
It was clear. It was concise. Yeah.
I like how she started with, "You trusted me before," right? I came before you 8 years ago. You trusted me.
She's credible.
Yes.
That's Michelle.
Is it consistent? Yeah. Is it consistent? Yes. What is it consistent with? Right. This is part of the messaging thing. What is the message of the campaign? This is a campaign speech for Hillary Clinton, right? Very clearly. What is she talking about? She's talking about her daughters. She's talking about her daughters growing up to be decent women. This is 100% in line with the core message of Hillary's campaign. This wasn't that this was the story she decided to tell. This was the story she decided to tell that was consistent with the broader campaign message for Hillary Clinton.
Well, character matters.
Character matters was also Hillary's thing, right? And in fact, what she just said there, when they go low, we go high, became a rallying cry of the Clinton campaign.
And she's also, in that story, she's also talking about the Trump campaign.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was contrasting too, right? So when we think about the 5 C's, clear, concise, consistent, credible, and contrasting, we use those 5 C's through stories that we tell, through the details we tell in those stories, right? They deliver values. So one thing we're going to focus on now, if we can go to the next slide, is the message box. So this is going to be really based around the contrast part, because this is something that we oftentimes, I think, I found with campaigns that I've worked with, have a really hard time sort of wrapping your heads around about creating a contrasting message. And I will say, if there's like two or three things that you come out of this training with as tools to use, I think the targeting stuff that Georgia had of the 5 steps of putting together your universe, like that will universally be something that you will use on your campaign. This is going to be the other one. The third will be the fundraising stuff we do. But like every single campaign, I would recommend go through the targeting box exercise that we're going to do today. We're going to walk through it, and then we're going to give you guys a fake campaign in Anytown, USA, of 2 candidates running against each other. We're going to divide up into teams of different campaigns, and we're going to come up, do the message box exercise with folks. So what is the message box? how do we figure out what our message is going to be? The key to it is contrasting. So the way we think about it is like, what are we going to say about ourselves? What are our opponents going to say about themselves? What do we say about our opponents? And what our opponent says about us? Actually, before I go into this, I should stop and ask if there are any questions. Should have done that before I jumped into the message box and said how important it was, because now no one will ask. All right, we're good. Cool. So we're going to use examples of the 2008 presidential election to try to like flesh this thing out a little bit, okay? So let's go to the next slide, which is a video. This is a 2008 ad for Obama. What we're going to do after this is figure out what is Obama saying about Obama.
This election isn't going to be about changing parties. It's going to be about living for every other American. That's what gives me hope.
I don't want a nation just for me. I want a nation for everybody.
You can't walk away and not feel hope and not feel that glimmer of light again.
I don't think I was ever this interested in the voting process.
It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to be part of a movement such as this.
I want to get them back involved in this process. The grassroots level first, and then let it go. That's going to make me happy.
Organizing ourselves. The campaign helps us. They're there to help us, but we're organizing ourselves.
It is the relationships that we have with one another that is our strength.
I think for a long time I had given up that we could work together to make change in this country.
Well, I've been involved in politics. I've seen politicians, but this is different.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no ordinary time. This is no ordinary election. And this may be our last chance to reclaim the America we love.
We are one people. We are one nation. And together we will begin the next great chapter in the American story with words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can.
All right. What is Barack Obama saying about Barack Obama? What are the themes of his campaign message?
Inclusion.
Inclusion, go on.
Diversity.
Diversity, inclusion.
Hope and change.
Hope and change. Well, let's stay on that. I would say there's more to the diversity inclusion, right? It's about us. And there's an us to it that is diverse and it's inclusive. And in fact, the diversity and inclusiveness was embodied in the man's physical body. He's a biracial man. That's the story he tells about himself. And so it's not about one person, it's about all of us, right? About us. What was that other one? Hope and change? Yes, there was definitely a lot of hope and change. Empowerment?
Yeah, it was kind of like, you're going to do this, we're going to do this.
It's about us together.
It's not I alone can do this, it's we have to do this together.
Empowered together. Us empowered together.
Enjoying the cause.
Yes. What was that?
It was a movement, not a person.
It was a movement. It was about us. It wasn't about. But there was something special, right? What does Joe Biden say at the end?
Oh, well, I think it was this may be our last chance.
It's our last chance. But this is no ordinary time. This is no ordinary. There was something, as much as it was about us, there was something extraordinary about Obama in the way that he presented himself as well. it's about you know, sort of like it's no ordinary candidate, I think is what he said.
It's no ordinary time, or that this is different.
No ordinary
The time was different.
No ordinary time, no ordinary candidate, right? And what they're talking about there? No ordinary candidate, first African American president. Yeah.
We also put a lot of emphasis on the fact that there's all these new people joining him.
Yep.
That kind of piggybacks on the novelty part survey, and then also about more
New folks. Yep.
And he also finished it with, yes, we can. So he actually, even if they were voting for him or not, he included them as we. So he wasn't just thinking about what he could do.
So it's us, and we're empowered. All right. So now we're gonna watch an ad on John McCain. I'm gonna say what John McCain is saying about John McCain.
Keep that faith. Keep your courage. Stick together. Stay strong. Do not yield. Stand up. We're Americans and we'll never surrender.
What must the president believe about us, about America? That she is worth protecting? That liberty is priceless? Our people honorable? Our future prosperous, remarkable, and free? And what must we believe about that president? What does he think? Where has he been? Has he walked the walk?
What is your rank? Lieutenant Commander, Navy, and your official number, 624787.
John McCain, the American president Americans have been waiting for.
I'm John McCain and I approve this message.
So what's John McCain saying about himself? Well, Barack Obama was talking about how great he was too. So they both think they're great. We're gonna do hands just to make the yes in the back.
That he's the real hero.
Real hero, like he's been there, he's done it, right? You like he's the real hero. What else? Let's keep going on real hero. Yes.
He's courage and strength.
Courage and strength, hero. Has served already, right? Like
Walk the walk.
Walk the walk. I'm sorry if no one can ever read this, but I think you get the gist. Let's go in the back, Azovsky, and then we'll go around that way.
He's American.
Yeah.
As opposed to that other thing.
Absolutely. American. What else is that? I mean, I know what the dog whistle is, but what else is he actually? What beyond the dog whistle? What's he saying?
Patriotic.
Patriotic. I would argue too. You know him. What else?
Lifetime commitment.
Lifetime commitment. Walk the walk. Yep. Yeah.
Experience.
Experienced.
And he uses ready on day one.
Ready to lead.
Never surrender.
Never surrender. Yeah.
It was a lot more like aggressive. Right. It was more about. It didn't feel as inclusive as Obama's. It was more like this is about McCain.
It's about John McCain. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that we're under, it makes you give, he gives the feeling without saying it that we're under attack.
There's a threat somewhere.
There is that feeling.
Yeah.
And that he is the future.
I don't know. What does he say?
In order to follow him, he showed a picture or something, or some type of news article that read like McCain the future or something. Yeah, like that's what he was trying.
That he's the future?
Am I crazy?
No.
He spoke about.
Let's do in the back there.
He's also the guy who can keep us safe and secure. Although watching it today made me really nervous.
Yeah.
I did not feel safe or secure, but he was trying to.
He's ready to lead. He can keep us safe. Yeah.
It almost seemed like with the music too, he was playing on people's fear. The fact that he's a patriot and he served this country and he can keep us safe kind of thing.
Yeah.
At the beginning, he started out with like, I feel like there was 5 commands he issued to us, and I thought the message behind that was, I'm going to tell you what to do, so you don't have to think of it on your own.
we're gonna watch, the next hour we're gonna watch is what John McCain says about Barack Obama.
He's the biggest celebrity in the world. But is he ready to lead? With gas prices soaring, Barack Obama says no to offshore drilling and says he'll raise taxes on electricity. Higher taxes, more foreign oil. That's the real Obama.
I'm John McCain, and I approve this message.
All right. So let's look at this. What's he doing? Well, yes, but what is he doing here? Yeah. He's contrasting. That's right. So if Obama says it's about us together, right? What's McCain saying? Well, it's about him, and all these people, they're just like in love with the celebrity, right? They're just crowds, and like you saw the image actually was of Berlin when Barack Obama went to Berlin, and it was the largest crowd Europe's ever seen.
Well, it started out with he's the biggest celebrity in the world.
Biggest celebrity. So what is he's contrasting? It's about, if Barack Obama says it's all about us, what he's saying is that the us are a bunch of lunatics, right? They're just worshiping an idol, right? Obama, a celeb. If it's no ordinary candidate, right? That's what Obama's saying about himself. Yeah.
I'm sorry. He's using, what I got is that he's using the word celebrity to undermine all of the things that he has done, to say, celebrities are not usually very informed in the political sphere.
Totally. He's literally Paris Hilton and Britney Spears. He's comparing them, right? So he's celebrity. These people are just fawning over stardom. This isn't real politics. Yes.
I think he also, in contrast to what he says about himself in terms of American patriotism, when he talks about foreign oil, when he's talking about that, he's talking about other, in the sense of it's something non-American or non.
Well, what exactly does it say at the end?
Higher taxes.
No. About Obama.
He doesn't care about you or
No, he literally says, do you know the real Obama?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the real Obama.
That's the real Obama.
Yeah, it implies that you don't know.
And it's also, what's Obama saying? He's an extraordinary candidate. He's an extraordinary candidate not only because he's an extraordinary individual, because he will become the first African American president of America. And what's McCain saying? You don't know him. There's something strange about this man, and you don't quite know what it is, right? You need to find out who the real Obama is before it's too late. And now we're going to watch one more. This is what Barack Obama says about John McCain.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Senator Obama, I am not President Bush.
True, but you did vote with Bush 90% of the time. Tax breaks for big corporations and the wealthy, but almost nothing for the middle class. Same as Bush. Keep spending $10 billion a month in Iraq while our own economy struggles. Same as Bush. You may not be George Bush, but
I voted with the president over 90% of the time, higher than a lot of my even Republican colleagues.
All right, so what's he saying? McCain equals Bush. But there's a little bit more than that to that, right? Well, that's right. He's not someone to believe. But there's something more to that, right? If Obama's hope and change, then what is McCain?
Status quo.
Status quo. He's Bush, right? So if you go to the next slide. So look, here's what's interesting. John McCain is an independent, right? He has bucked his party leadership again and again and again. But does John McCain talk about being the maverick? Why?
He's not, because he wants to
Well,
get
no. There is a credible case that he could make that he has bucked Republican Party leadership. That is like a lot of his story.
10% was great. Because he wants to get elected.
Because his opponent is Obama.
That's
He
right.
is the maverick.
How can McCain be hope, like change and hope? If he has nothing on Obama on change and hope. Obama is a sitting U.S. senator. Obama is a former state senator from Illinois. Did he talk about any of his accomplishments?
No.
Why? Because they're nothing
Right.
compared to John McCain, right?
And he doesn't want to be establishment.
And it doesn't help if he's like, well, I've been in Washington doing all this, like, so long doing these things, I can't be hope and change if I've just been, like, in Washington. So what's the point of that, right? We all have a lot of stories that we can tell about ourselves, right? We can talk about where we grew up, we can talk about our jobs, we can talk about our family, we can talk about our parents. There's a lot of stuff we can say. We choose the stories to say based on our message box. So, about everyone, hope and change, no ordinary politician. Same as Bush, no hope, no change. Right? McCain, traditional values, you know him, he's walked the walk. McCain on Obama, he's a celebrity, you don't know him, you don't know the real Obama. So the point of this is that when you're developing your campaigns, you want to think about like how to create this contrasting message with your opponent. What we're talking about is giving your voters a choice. You're presenting them with a choice in the stories that you tell about yourself. So we're going to do an exercise, and it's a little bit hard thinking abstractly, watching like presidential politics and thinking about how it's going to work in a state race or a municipal race. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a project here. This is what's called our messaging box exercise. We are going to get these things right this time. We're going to break off into the different campaigns. What you'll have is, actually, can you grab me one of those? Oh, I got one. So we have two people are running against each other. You want to take one and pass it? And I'm also handing out a message box. They're both good candidates. We decided that it would be bad to like have one person be the bad guy. So they're both good candidates, and we're going to read you the bios. We're going to break into small groups, and for about 20-25 minutes, your group on your campaign is going to design the message box for your campaign.